again, everybody. Fiber Spider back again in the kitchen with another tasty video for you. Hello. Hope all of you are doing really well today. I'm doing pretty darn spiffy because I'm going to show you another fabulous recipe. And this is the perfect recipe for this time of year, and it is my favorite time of year, the fall, the autumn, when the leaves are falling and turning colors and you get that nice crisp smoky smell in the air. Oh, I love it. We are going to be making pumpkin cookies. Yes, they are easy, they are quick, and the yield, if I remember correctly, because I made this recipe once before, the yield is about 6 dozen. So it is it's substantial. And actually this time I'm going to try to freeze some of the batch and see how well that works up. Basically just take a little scoop, put them on some parchment paper on a cookie sheet, pop them in the freezer. Then when they have become frozen solid, put those dough balls into a plastic bag and then bake them when I want to. Defrost them, bake them, boom. But yeah, seriously, this is a very easy recipe, and I think you guys are going to like it. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, so I believe I have all of my ingredients all set to go, and of course there will be the ingredients needed in the description box down below as per usual. So let's get started. First things first, we're going to need 1 cup of white granulated sugar. Now, I'm actually a little bit surprised that the recipe didn't call for brown sugar, but hey, whatever works. So, 1 cup of white sugar. Another thing that surprised me is that we use so little, so little butter. Only 2 tablespoons of butter, which is really not much for a cookie recipe, especially one with such a high yield. So that is approximately about 1 inch or so out of a stick of butter, roughly speaking. Boop. Okie dokie. Then, just going to mix these together a little bit. You don't have to go whole hog and cream these together with a mixer or anything like that. No, just, mix them together. And then, to facilitate this, because I'm getting some stickage here, there we go. Now you do want your butter to be at room temperature. You don't want to melt it, but you do want it to be nice and soft. If you have an electric mixer, more power to you. Or if you want to use a KitchenAid, that's totally fine. I like to do things by hand. And as we add more ingredients, this will be more homogeneous anyway. So I'm not too worried about that. For me, that's good enough. Okay, I'm not going to be nitpicky. All right. Then from there, 1 can of pumpkin puree. And just gonna open this up. The vast majority of the ingredients that I get from Walmart. Makes it so much easier for me, quite frankly. Hashtag not sponsored. There we go. Actually, I don't need that. I'll just do this. And, well, we're getting there. All right, so just going to give this a quick mix. Like I said, I wasn't so overtly concerned about the butter not being completely mixed in, because now that we have a more liquidy substance, this will help with that. Okie dokie. Now, from here, going to add about half a cup of chopped walnuts. Now, I already went ahead and this is halves and pieces of walnuts. It was a little too large of, pieces for my taste. So what I did was I put them in a food processor to make them a little bit finer, because I like to use a little scoop, and those pieces would have been far too big. Like this guy, for instance. All right. So about a half a cup there. Okay, and then 1 egg, lightly beaten. Get this going in here as well. So right now we're just doing all of the wet ingredients, and then we'll deal with the dry ingredients separately. Okay, now just need my teaspoon. There we are. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. There we are. And that is pretty much it as far as the wet ingredients go. All right, looks delish. Okay, so from here, going to swap over to a smaller bowl, and we're going to need about 2 cups of all-purpose flour. Make sure you level them off. Okay, that's 1. And 2. Alrighty. And then 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Now I just used my teaspoon for the vanilla, so I'm going to use 2 half teaspoons. So 1 teaspoon of baking powder. That's 1 half, and then 2 halves. Alrighty. Half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use kosher salt. There we are. And then Because this recipe didn't call for any sort of cinnamon or clove or pumpkin spice or anything, I decided I'm going to add it myself. So, that being said, let me just grab a tablespoon. Okay, now, I like to use my blend of chai spice, which is a blend of clove and cinnamon and ginger, and I absolutely love it. You can use really whatever works best for you. If I remember, I will try to put the list of ingredients for the chai spice. It's really quite nice, I think. So just going to do a tablespoon of this, or 3 teaspoons. Nice translation for you. There we are. And then give these a little bit of a mix. All right. Then, last but certainly not least, mix the dry into the wet. Also, I will say this. It is extremely easy to mix this dough. I mean, I've worked with some where they get really, really super stiff and difficult to work. This, it's really not difficult at all. And you just want to make sure that everything is mixed in and homogeneous. All right, and it looks like we are just about there. Just want to make sure I don't see any more dry spots. And voila. All right, now all I have to do is get my cookie sheets ready. We'll start the preheat and we are good to go. Okay, so I've got my oven preheating to 375. I have my parchment paper ready to go and my trusty little scoop. I love this thing. Now this is the reason why I decided to grind up the walnuts to be a little bit smaller so that I could actually make a decent scoop. So, going to do the typical 12 per sheet. Now, you could probably do more because similar to pfeffernuss, it doesn't spread out. It tends to keep its shape in a very sort of donut hole kind of way. So you don't have to worry about that too much. Now, you are going to want to use a spoon or a scoop. You will not be able to roll these. It's a very wet dough. Very wet, very squishy. And very much akin to pumpkin pie filling. So I'm just going to do a dozen. There we go. I tell you guys, if you don't have one of these, I strongly suggest it, because it makes the process a lot easier, and also you end up with a uniform size each and every time. There we go. All right, perfect. Nice and easy. Okay, so as soon as my oven is done preheating, I'm going to pop them in for about 15 minutes, pop them out, and I shall be back in a bit. Okie dokie, so it has been about 15 minutes since I popped in the cookies, and we are almost there. Just a wee little bit more time, and we will be able to take them out, and then they will be essentially done. But I do like to add one extra little step, which we will get to. Just bear with me. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and bada bing, bada boom. Let's go. And here we go, my little beauties. Like I said, they really don't spread out terribly much, which actually can be a good thing, you know, if I wanted to add more to my cookie sheet. So I am going to let these cool completely. I'm going to pop in my next batch, and then when all of the cookies that I'm going to bake are done, I will show you the final step. All right, I will see you in a bit. Okay, so I admit I made a slight mistake, but it will be corrected. I made half a recipe when I was listing off the ingredients just before. My calculations were a little bit confuzzled, as it were. So actually, yeah, instead of adding a whole can, it was 1 cup of the pumpkin puree, because I had done a double batch the one time that I did this before. So I apologize, but I did already taste one, and they are really scrumptious regardless. Okay, so it's all right. And instead of making about 6 dozen, it made about, you know, three and change dozen, you know, because it was a single batch. So it's okay. I will be making some corrections. So yes, to err is human, spider divine. All right, so now to dress these up a little bit more and make them even more fabulous, we're going to take a little bit of half and half, or milk, whichever, and some powdered sugar, and we are going to be making a bit of a glaze. This is, it's not necessary, but it is really good, and I highly recommend it. So I got a nice little bowl here. Actually, can I position the camera down a little bit more? There we go. Now, you're going to need way more powdered sugar than milk. You know, with the milk, a little goes a long way, believe you me. And there isn't, I would say, like an exact science when it comes to how much you're going to need of one or the other, because I would say it's really a matter of personal preference and taste as far as you know, the consistency goes. You know, I like it to be, you know, fairly thin, but not super duper runny. You know, I like it to have some viscosity to it. So going to add a little bit to start with. It was maybe about a teaspoon or so. And then we will go from there. You know, you can always add more of one or the other, so do not fret. You know, I hardly added any half and half, and it's already dissolving the sugar very nicely. As you can see, it's got some decent viscosity. And actually, you know what? I think I might have gotten it pretty good the first try. Usually it takes a little bit of more of this, a little bit more of that, in order for me to get the right consistency. But this is going to make a nice icing to our cookies. There we are. Now, you could do the drizzle method. You could use a piping bag. You could use a Ziploc bag, fill that up, and then cut off the tip for your own makeshift, you know, piping bag, whatever works for you. Me, I'm gonna dunk them. So, just going to grab and dunk just the top of them. And then let them cool. And let the icing get nice and stiff, and then we are good to go. So again, yes, I do apologize for my mistake. It happens. But like I said, I did try one and they are still rather tasty. Okay, so I'm gonna do the rest of these guys off camera. And then when they are all set and good, I will be right back and we will do the final official tasting. All right, I'll see you in a bit. And here we are for the tasting. In spite of technical difficulties, we are going to enjoy these little boogers. All right, so bon appetit. Moist, cakey, got, a really nice sort of warm harvesty flavor between the pumpkin and the chai spice. The walnuts give a nice little bit of crunch and texture to sort of coincide and counteract, the really soft, cakey texture of the cookie. And while the icing on top is not necessary, it does, give that sort of little, that little zhuzh of sweetness. The cookies themselves, they are sweet enough, but I would say they're subtle in their sweetness. So I think that the extra little bit of icing on top gives them, just that little bit of extra. Also, it dresses them up a little bit, gives them, their Sunday best. Really, really like these very, very much. And so, yeah, I'm going to, in the description box, put down all of the ingredients needed for a single batch. Oh, man. But, in spite of the fact that I added more pumpkin, I think that they're still really good because for the single batch, it's 1 cup of pumpkin, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a can of pumpkin is about 15 ounces. So, it was just shy of 2 cups. Now, when I did the initial time that I did the recipe, instead of going for opening up yet another can and getting a little bit of extra out, I just did 1 can. And that worked out just fine. So, that being said, I gave myself some lemons and I made lemonade out of it regardless. I'm still quite pleased with the results, and I think you guys should try them out. Indeed, I do. Have you made something similar to this? If so, what was similar about it? What was different? Always interested in hearing from you guys. And, since we are approaching, the season of baking, whether it is cookies or pastries or what have you, are there recipes that you are interested in seeing? Because I'm always interested in trying new things, obviously. So let me know in the comments section. All right. So as always, until next time, you know what to do, right? I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay making fun, fabulous, tasty treats in the kitchen for yourself. Share them with somebody you love. Take care of yourselves and each other. And I will see you in my next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great day.